everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I am here with my friends,
Andy. Mazzy.
and my name is Molly Hollabaugh. And we were thinking that here at Zentangle, we put out a lot of videos, but we don't put out that many videos that are made especially for kids. And it has come to our attention that we're all spending a lot of time at home right now, aren't we? Especially kids. And we thought it was time that we maybe put together a video that was made especially for our Zentangle apprentices out there. So this tile that Indy and Mazzy and I put together is, it's pretty introductory. So if you've never done Zentangle before, I invite you to join us, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. And if you have practiced Zentangle before, I also think you'll enjoy it. So we like to always put a new twist on things and just have fun with it. So the girls and I are each going to be working on our own tiles here, and we're going to take turns teaching you some tangles. And I think I'm just going to go over some of the materials we're working with here. And I invite you to find whatever you can at your house to work with. I'm going to be working with some basic Zentangle materials here. I'm going to be working with a white 3.5-inch square tile with a black pen and graphite pencil and a tortillon. Mazzy, I think, is going to be working with some of her favorite colors, right? She's going to be working on a black tile with this purple gel pen and this, what is this, gold, Maz? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's got a black apprentice tile here. And then Indy's she's got a gray tile here, and she's going to be working with this cool teal color and this lime green color. Yeah. So we're all working with different stuff, but we're going to be playing with the same tangles. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to start off here, and we're going to start with our pencils. And if you have a graphite pencil, that's great. You can join along with that. And we're going to go through the basic steps of the method with this tile. And we're going to start by putting 4 dots in the corners of our tile, nice and light. And these dots really just are placeholders for us to create what we call a border. And I like to turn my tile as I work. Kind of remind myself to take some deep breaths, take my time. So I have a nice border like that. And when the girls and I were thinking about what we wanted to show you guys today, Mazzy suggested we start with a pretty simple string. She thought maybe we just do an X, right? And so I invite you to follow along. And what we're going to do is just create an X in the middle of our tile. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And really what a string does is it gives us a place to put all our tangles. And we call our patterns tangles. So I'm going to switch to my pen now. And if you all have a pen at home, you can grab your pen. I'm using just a black one. And you'll see in a little bit what the girls are using. And we're going to show you one of the tangles that you might often see with Zentangle beginnings. And this is Crescent Moon. And I love Crescent Moon because every time I do Crescent Moon, it just seems a little bit different. So we're going to start off by picking a section. And you can pick any section, it doesn't matter. And we're going to start off by drawing these little half circle shapes. We often call them ladybugs because they look like these little ladybugs kind of dancing along the edge of your space. And we're going to be leaving space in between them. And I'm just going to ever so gently work my way around the space till I have, about that many. And each one will be a little bit different. Everybody's going to have a different amount of ladybugs dancing around their space. Once you have all your ladybugs there, we're going to very gently ink in each one of those shapes. Just focusing on one of those shapes at a time. Slowly watching all that ink fill in the shape. I like to turn my tile as I work so that my hand's in a comfortable position. And adding these bits of ink really makes a difference in your drawings. Kind of makes them pop right off the paper. And your shapes might be slightly different sizes. And that's okay. Crescent moon is one of those tangles that I've probably drawn, thousands of times, I feel like. And every time I discover something new, or I do something a little bit different, but it's that familiar sense that I always go back to. It's like a comfort. All right. So just remember that everybody works at a different pace. And because this is a video, you can always press pause if you're not done yet. I'm going to move on to the next step. And the next step is to create what we call an aura. And I am simply going to just draw a line that echoes that ladybug shape that we've previously drawn. And this is kind of an interesting way to kind of go back and revisit that shape we've already drawn and just let that shape kind of tell us what to do. And I like to turn my tile as I work. So I've made it around once, but what I'm going to do now is just keep on going. I'm just going to continue to draw auras around each one of my shapes. Continuing to turn my tile as I work, just taking your time. All you have to do is worry about that one line at a time, and perhaps taking a breath, moving on to the next one. Now with this tangle, you're going to start to have to maybe start to layer your auras, or maybe they start to bump into one another. You can kind of do it different ways, and you'll see that Indian Mazzy will do theirs probably different than I've done mine. And I actually do mine a little bit different every time. So now I'm not so much aura-ing the ladybugs, but I'm just aura-ing the aura or the line. And sometimes you may decide to leave the little white space in the middle, and that's fine too. Girls, this is kind of remind me of what it looks like when you skip a stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Throw it in the water and you get that.
Yeah. Sometimes it looks like it's going down.
Right?
An illusion.
Oops.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, so I have filled my space. I just love crescent moon. These always come out fun.
Yeah.
Nice work, you guys.
I think it's actually good that it's three of us and like I'm going slower, so it's like
Yeah.
if it's okay if like somebody else is.
Totally. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll help you talk a little bit. I'll start and then you start.
Okay.
You can follow. All right, so we're ready to move on to our next tangle, and Mazzy is going to show us this next tangle on her tile. And as you can see, her crescent moon actually looks quite a bit different than mine, and that's so wonderful. She, started with the gold pen, right? And then you moved on to the purple pen, right? So I love that she left this little space in the middle too, just to give it a little bit of a different look. Was pretty cool. So she's going to start showing us a tangle called Hollabah, which happens to be right. But anyway, we are going to do some Hollabah, and she's going to pick a space, and you all can also pick a space and follow along with her.
Okay. So I'm going to take my pen, and I'm going to pick a space, and I'm going to draw a line across that space.
Hold on a second.
And then I'm going to draw another line to make it like maybe a stick or a pole.
Or like a band or something, yeah. So there are two lines that are parallel to one another, stretching from one side to the other.
And then I'm going to make another one across that. But when I get to that one, I'm going to actually stop and go to the other side of that and start making a line. Start making line at the other side of that so it looks like it's going under. Then I'm going to make it another line. And I can keep overlapping them. Keep doing same thing.
And when you're working with gel pens, you have to be a little careful because they stay a little wet, don't they?
Yeah, and you don't want to put your hand on it. Don't want to smudge it.
So yeah, the only trick with Hollabah is to really kind of remember to pick up your pen when you come across a band that you've already drawn, right?
Yeah. And it's okay if you forget to.
I know, right? We do that all the time.
Yeah. Maybe you could like color in that band.
Right?
To make it look cool. Be like one band colored in.
It's helpful with Hollabah to turn your tile each time and kind of look at it in a different angle so you can see maybe where you'll put your next one.
Yeah.
Looks fun on the black tile.
Yeah.
Well, yours is filling up fast, Maz.
Yeah. I'm going to switch to my other pen and see what it looks like.
Ooh, that's a fun idea.
Yeah.
Very cool with the second color.
Yeah.
That looks great, Maz.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. All right. You did good.
Yeah.
All right, so Indy. Now you switch with Indy. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on to our third tangle here, and Indy has stepped into the teacher's seat, and she's going to be showing you guys one of her favorite tangles, right? This is one of your favorites, I think. And this tangle is called?
Poke root.
All right, let's do it.
So first we're going to be drawing, like Hollabot, 2 lines that are parallel. Now after you've done that, we're going to kind of draw like a frowny face that's going on the parallel lines. But if you don't like frowny faces, then it's a smiley face. Now, after that, we're going to draw kind of like the face to go around it. It's kind of like a circle.
Big circle, so it puts your frowny face almost in the middle, right?
Yeah, if you want it to be in the middle.
Or closer to the bottom a little bit.
Yeah. And then after that, we're going to do basically the exact same thing. And you can put it on top of it, or next to it, or beside it, or smaller, or larger.
So cute.
And you can make them coming off the side of it, going behind them.
They're like little berries.
And if you really want to make it exciting, you can make a double poke root.
Oh yeah, they're like little cherries. I like that. Super cool.
Okay, and you can make that filling up the whole space, or not the whole space.
You can show them how to do poke leaf too.
Maybe we'll save that for another video.
No, we don't. And if your space gets filled up faster than mine did, then you can just color in the background or find some other way to do it. Maybe you can like, I don't know.
Poke root's kind of like a weed,
shadows.
so maybe it would grow into other spaces, right?
Yeah.
Because with Zentangle, we just use our pencil lines as sort of a guide, but what's kind of great is you can draw right over them.
So if it goes outside, that's fine.
Right?
Might be cool, maybe saying hi to the other tangles.
Maybe even instead of making it go behind it, you could make it smushed in one space.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And maybe you filled up your space and you want to go make tiny poke roots in other spots.
I actually really love poke root too. I tend to use it quite often. And I love how everybody's looks a little different. Sometimes they look like big berries. Sometimes they look like mushrooms or some other weird plant. Poke root is actually a plant that grows here where we live. I think you can find it in most places in the United States. Not so
Usually
sure.
they're purple.
They're very, very purple berries, right? And they grow in like the cracks in the sidewalks, right? And the people usually pick them out.
I think they grow in a lot of places, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't eat them, they're poisonous.
What do you think? You all done, Indy?
I think that my tile looked good.
All right. I like it too. Okay, so we're going to show you guys one more tangle. We all should have one more space, and this tangle is called Tortuga, and it sort of combines 2 different tangles, but it is a grid tangle, and Mazzy is going to start it off, and then Indy's going to finish it off.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take one of my pens and I'm going to make a grid. I'm going to put a line here, like sort of like stripes first.
And we want to make sure these are pretty far apart. You don't want them too close together.
And then we're gonna make a grid, put lines the other way to
Nice.
make a grid.
That looks good, Maz.
Doesn't matter how many spaces are in a grid.
Right? And we actually don't need it perfect, because if it were perfect, that would be kind of boring. We like it to have a little bit of personality. Nice job.
Okay, so now for the second part of this tangle, we're going to be adding spirals in each little box. So you can start in any box you want. I'm just going to start in this middle box. And the spiral, I like to start in the middle. And just kind of, it's just like a swirl. You can make it as big as you want. And maybe your boxes are really small, so you have to add really small spirals, or they're really big. You need really big spirals. I'm going to fill all of those boxes. And we're going to kind of smush it in there. So once you get to the corners, you're going to kind of like pause. Maybe like you pause or it keeps going.
I always forget about this tangle. We thought about it today. Because sometimes when you're finished with it, it sort of looks like a...
And it has a funny name. It's called Tortuga.
That is kind of a funny name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spirals are quite mesmerizing if you're just drawing them over and over again. I always get sort of lost in them.
Hypnotized.
Right? And by sort of smushing the spirals all the way to the edge, you get kind of those interesting corner spaces that can't come about. Some people like to ink those in. It creates like another look. That's an option. Sort of take the instructions and then make them your own, right?
Yeah. Everybody's tile looks different.
Okay, so we have 4 awesome tangles we did today. Thank you so much for helping me with this, you guys. This is how my tile looks like as I was working on a white tile with black ink, but you saw Indy and Mazzy's looked actually a lot different than mine. And this is what they all look like without shading. And we're going to show you guys some shading right here in a minute. But if you're not interested in adding graphite and you're like kind of liking the way your tile is just as it is, that's totally fine too. So I'm going to start with my graphite pencil. The girls also have it's just a regular pencil here. And I'm going to begin with my crescent moon. And I'm going to add a little bit of graphite right around the edges. But when I'm shading, I kind of put my pencil on its side. Do you notice that I'm kind of using the side of it? And that way I get a softer line. I don't get like a super hard line. And I'm just going to go along the edges. And the trick when you're shading with Zentangle is it's very different than coloring. You don't want to color in the whole space because we want to leave some of our areas unshaded, and that will give you some cool shadows and highlights. So we're just putting a little bit of graphite around the edges. What I enjoy about shading a Zentangle tile is there's no like real representation here. I don't have to worry about a light source or anything. We're just kind of trying to create some definition and some depth and stuff like that. So I'm going to pick up this other tool here. It's called a tortillon or a blending stump. And if you don't have one, you can just use your finger. I do that a lot too. But if you do have one, I'm just going to gently, in these kind of circular motions, I'm going to blend the edges.
Wow, the color looks good on here.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to show everybody. This is actually one of my favorite parts of the process because I think it adds almost like the frosting on the cake. It just makes it a little more exciting. And as you can see, I'm really leaving the center alone because I want to sort of hold on to that as like a highlight. So I'm just kind of shading the edges so it makes it look a little bit dramatic.
More alive.
Alive, yeah. And then with my halaba, there's so many different ways. You could use the same approach with your halaba that we did with Crescent Moon if you want to do that, by just doing the edges. Or if you wanted to find maybe that bar or band that looks like it's up on the top. Maybe it was like one of the first ones you drew. And I like to put like just a little thin shadow on either side. And I like to find some of those bands that don't have too many things on top of them. And I'm just going to do a few of them. But like I said with shading, there's lots of different ways to do this, so you don't necessarily have to do it the same way the next time or the same way I'm doing it right now. So lots of different options. And then just gently fading it out with your tortillon. I'm being careful to leave that band unshaded, and that kind of makes it pop right off so that the shadow looks like it's behind it, which is kind of cool. Just taking your time, breathing, turning your tile as you work. All right, that's pretty cool for halaba. Now with poke root, I kind of did something a little different with mine. I didn't fill the whole space. I kind of left it so that I had some white space, which maybe some of you might have done that. You might leave your poke root unshaded, that's fine. I'm gonna add a little bit of I think a shadow around the edges of mine. And then maybe I might also sort of see where some of these poke root seem to overlap. So I'm going to do two different shading things here.
You could also like just shade the big ones.
Oh, that's a good idea, Andy. Yeah, as you kind of grow a Zentangle practice, you're starting to get your own style and sort of figure out which tangles you like to shade certain ways, and notice that shading can totally change the way a tangle looks. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I don't really like the way that came out. And then I'll leave my tile for a little bit, and then I'll go back and shade it, and I'll be like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking. I love the way that looks now. So I always encourage folks to just be patient and follow through to the end, because you never know what it's going to look like at the end. So true with many things, right? I have to say, I've always really loved using these blending stumps. They just kind of are like a fun tool that it's unexpected. It makes a pencil be sort of extra special. All right, so that's pretty cool. Adding a little drama. So lastly, we have our Tortuga. And Tortuga is, I think it's actually a fun one to shade. And what I do with my Tortuga is I actually just take my pencil and I go right on top of these original grid lines in one direction that I already drew, and I kind of go right over that with some graphite. It seems kind of funny, but I'm going to show you in a minute how cool this looks.
Nice sparkles in my blending in with my shading.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Like sparkly shading.
It's like pixie dust.
Yeah.
And then I go over that gently with my tortillon. Like I said, if you don't have a tortillon at home, that's okay. I just love the way that looks. The That's a fun one to shade. I guess if you wanted to go the other way too, you could, and that would give it a look. But I'm just going one direction with mine. All right, so now's the time to kind of put all your finishing touches on there. And then we have a really important step. What's the next step, girls?
We have to write our initials.
Yeah, because everybody should sign their artwork. So I'm going to find a space on my tile to put my initials.
You can maybe hide them in one of your tangles.
Right? That's always fun to do.
I like to do it in my hollaba.
Maybe you put your name on your full name on the back of your tile, maybe the date. Maybe this is the first Zentangle tile you've ever done. And then the last step of the Zentangle method is appreciation. And I think it's time we appreciate our work, right, girls? So I'm going to show you guys all 3 of our tiles. I'm going to put Mazzie's in the middle because hers was a different size. And see if I can fit these all in here. So this is pretty cool because all 3 of us followed along with the same rules or same instructions, I guess. And we used some slightly different tools, and one of them just being us, right? We were different, and I think that's pretty cool. So thank you so much for joining us today. That was really fun, and we hope to do it again real soon, right, girls?
Yep.
For more information, you can check out zentangle.com, and thank you.
Bye. Bye.